Today we're getting a first look at the Institute faction that are coming to Fallout Wasteland Warfare, as well as getting some more details on what content is to come right after this. Hey everyone, Sam here from the Tabletop Hub, your one-stop shop for all things tabletop, and today we have got a lot more information on the new content and factions that are coming to Fallout Wasteland Warfare, thanks to a recent development blog that just came out over on the Modiphius website. Now, the recent info drop discusses the end of Wave 2, which saw the Raider faction being introduced into the game, as well as the massive Liberty Prime that I think a lot of you are now getting in the post, and then dives into sharing details on the upcoming Wave 3, which will see the Institute landing on our tabletops. So one of the first things that the folks at Modiphius discuss in the blog post is stock. Now this is something I see a lot of you talking about in the comments section, and it's something that Modiphius are not only aware of, but are taking steps to change that issue. In October you should see the Deathclaw, feral ghouls, rad roaches, mole rats, glowing ones, and rad scorpions all returning to the store, and hopefully returning to stores near you as well. Now, one of the big things that the team want to work on is bringing regular monthly releases of content, and they've stated that they've been making strides in order to make that possible. And it seems that they are hoping to have that in place for Wave 3, which will be landing in late Q4. So basically, around the end of the year, before the end of the year, hopefully. Now, of course, launching anything around that time of year, around Christmas, and shipping it is always tricky, / a nightmare, so I would say give them a little bit of grace on that. Christmas is absolutely mental for this kind of thing. Wave 3 will see Modiphius launching the Institute faction in a very similar way that they did for the Raiders as well. There will be a core set, character set, and then additional trooper sets, all with unique sculpts. Now, Modiphius released these pretty awesome images of the sculpts, all painted up for us to lust after, and lust after them I am. I think the sculpts here are great. There's a great variety with the models, and with quite a few of them, there's just a real menacing tone to how they look. Now, James Sheehan, the game's designer, has equally come out and given some suggestions as to what the strengths of this faction will be. The skeletal-looking Gen 1 synths will serve as the rank and file for the Institute. Their shooting skill is a little better than their melee, which is passable at best, but their real threat comes simply from their quantity. So I'd say these will be low cost, and you'll want to just swarm your opponents with them. The Gen 2 synths, specifically the Patroller and Trooper, are much more capable than the Gen 1s. The Patroller is a light unit with a really high search skill and will be best suited to hunting down and retrieving or stopping targets. Now, it has a good rifle or pistol skill as well as high health, but being a light unit, it will of course have less armor than other synths. The Trooper, however, is a capable combat soldier with good melee as well as shooting skills, including heavy weapons as well. It's also got better armor than Gen 1s and slightly higher health than the Patroller. The Gen 3 synths are what we'd call the skin jobs if we were in the Battlestar Galactica universe. Now, they're the ones that look like humans, and their job is to infiltrate humanity, with some becoming coursers specializing in tracking down runaway synths. Now, their human physiology means that their health is lower than the hard metallic Gen 2s, but the coursers are highly skilled in fighting, searching, and even picking locks. However, their most notable trait is their permanent stealth buoy, rendering them almost invisible if they need to be. I'd say that we can expect the Gen 3s to be pretty expensive to bring onto the battlefield, but remembering coming across these guys in game, I think that's warranted. The Institute equally have some specialist and unique units. The Scientist and Engineer are both quick across the ground, partly due to having little or no armor, but are weak combatants. Each have their own unique specialisms though. The Scientist has excellent computer skills, while the Engineer has a lesser but broader ability in all the expertise skills and can even repair synths on the battlefield as well, which I think is going to come in handy quite a bit. As for the Institute's unique characters, we have two unique synths, which are A-2018, a solid armoured heavy weapons expert, and Z-247, a courser slightly more suited to hand-to-hand combat. And finally, of course, we have Conrad Kellogg, whose cybernetic pain inhibitor means he gains an extra dice on his next attack when he takes damage. I can see that being super useful whenever he's on the table. As for their equipment, their weaponry includes Institute laser rifles, as well as the Institute laser pistol, which is a new addition to Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Kellogg's pistol is a real heavy hitter, which also gives any model wielding it the ability to use criticals too. The pistol's critical effect gives the wielder an action point, which works especially well with Kellogg himself, allowing him to potentially shoot again. We equally have the relay grenade being added, which is something I'm super curious about. Now, when these grenades land, they don't cause damage. Instead, they immediately spawn a Gen 1 synth in that location, which is pretty terrifying and totally fits with the meta for this faction, I think. Now, this will add new Gen 1 synths to the table where and when you need them, and without them being targets on their way to get there, which is going to be pretty useful. Now, this can really change the flow of the battle in your favor, and I think these relay grenades are going to be a real game changer, I think. It'll be interesting to see how they're played. Overall, the Institute will have a varied mix of capable units, as well as lower cost units too. They're being billed as a no-nonsense force with few special abilities, making them simple to play. One slight weakness though, is that they're more susceptible to energy damage than regular damage, and another is that most of them don't have the lockpicking skill, which is something you're going to want to keep in mind when putting together your warband or your team, basically. And folks, that is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here on my channel. Feel free to subscribe for more Fallout Wasteland Warfare news and updates, but until next time, of course, have a great week, and I will, of course, speak to you all very, very soon.